if they match up with the Suns. They got beef. So I'm down for the beef. I'm down for playoff beef and bad blood with a lot of these Western Conference teams.
I thought it would be a good point in time in the season, Justin and I both thought, to talk about some interesting teams to look at as we go really into the last third of the season. Let's be real. So, Justin, I'll throw it to you first. The homework we gave ourselves here was just pick 3 teams that you think are going to be interesting, and let's talk about them. So, who's your first team? Any order you want to go?
I think the Knicks are interesting. Because we taught the CP the franchise, and you'll get plugging that interview, but he has a lot of great insight as to the optimism of this team, the fall of the Brooklyn Nets, the rise of Jalen Brunson, and really with Brunson being, I would say the star of that team, taking the pressure off Julius Randle. And I think, CP was a lot more optimistic about the Nets than I think they're going to fall. So I think they'll leapfrog the Nets, and I think they might. I think it's realistic to say they'll be the 5th seed. Wow. And because of that, I think that's room to be fairly optimistic in terms of winning a first round matchup. And the Magic of Madison Square Garden, you can't really discount that. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens with that team. But the Knicks are always compelling. I mean, I'm biased. I'm a Bulls fan. So just the rivalry with just the Knicks, I'm just always excited for. But I mean, that's a team to watch just due to, their winning streak and just, Jalen taking a leadership role and then kind of flying under the radar just through all this kind of trade deadline madness. And Josh Hart, too. They got a really good pickup on that CP set as well. So really, I think they have a lot of momentum.
I like that pick. Because for one thing, I agree with it. For another thing, I didn't pick it. But yeah, I think the Knicks are a fascinating team. And there's a lot of long-term implications to see. There's a lot of things coming down the pipeline with the Knicks, some big decisions to make. Sure. I'm going to go to the Western Conference for my first team here. And I'm going to go light the beam, the 3rd place Kings, going to give some love to the small market. I think we've kind of heard a lot about the Suns and the Mavericks and a lot of the other, big move teams, at least. My question for the Kings is, can they hold off the new look Suns in that Pacific division? You see them in 3rd right now. They are at 32-25. The Suns at 32-28. So basically the Kings have just played less games than the Suns, but they've had a bit of a hold on that Pacific division for a good chunk of time now. And it's interesting as they come more into the conversation, as people start believing them. I don't think it's there yet. The buzz is there yet for them to get past the first round or past the second round, excuse me. But, they do look to be a likely home court advantage team, I'll say, and still have a good chance, given the injuries the Suns have gone through, at maintaining hold of that Pacific division. Yeah. Interestingly enough, if you wanted to bet on Bovada on the Kings to meet the Celtics in the finals, you have plus 20,000 as your odds there. So if you are loving the Kings, hey, take a shot if if you are really buying into the Kings. Right. So that's my first team. Anything to add? Otherwise, you can move on to your next team whenever you're ready.
No, they're a fun watch, and it's good to see the Kings just getting love. I think previous years, I think they're usually a borderline laughing stock. People make fun of them, and it's good just to see them in the mix. I think it's really good for the league too, just to see like the Suns, they struggled and now they're a perennial power. We've seen the Pelicans struggle and now they're in the mix, and now with the Kings as well, and in the Memphis Grizzlies. So I think that's great for the league.
Absolutely. Go ahead, give us your next team.
Yeah, I'm gonna go more mainstream. Sorry, and that's the Phoenix Suns.
All right.
That's going to be fun to see. And I think with DeAndre Ayton, I think with Kevin Durant there, with Chris Paul, that's going to be a very interesting mix to see where does he fall with just that new lineup, the new expectations. Pretty much it's title or bust with Kevin Durant. So Nothing too much to further add there. Just take a look at the odds on Bovada. It's really interesting to see, they're second in line to be the favorites at plus 425. So I think that's going to be really interesting to see in terms of if they can live up to those expectations. And if DeAndre Ayton, if they lose, will he be the scapegoat or not? I don't know. And I think it's certainly going to be interesting to see if they run into the Pelicans as well. They have a huge rivalry there, lots of bad blood. They have lots of bad blood with a lot of these teams on this list. So, I think they're going to be a compelling watch just as we head into the second half of the season.
Yeah, definitely with you there. I do still find the Phoenix Suns interesting. I think a lot of their narrative is how soon can they get healthy and all get together? Can they? Honestly, the question of can they gel or not, I think is irrelevant. I think these guys are going to click right away if they're all healthy. I don't think they'll have problems. I mean, KD didn't have any trouble fitting in with the Warriors. I mean, I think there was a lot of media drama, but they're really, if you looked at what was going on in the court, yeah, him and Draymond yelled at each other sometimes, but in terms of basketball fit, I mean, this guy is the Swiss Army knife,
Yeah,
the
agreed.
Swiss Army knife mercenary that you can just bring in, plug into any offense. So with you there, I'll go ahead and jump into my next team. I'm going to go to the Eastern Conference, which, as we know, is very deep. You've got a gridlock in the top three there: Celtics, Bucks, 76ers, Cavaliers right behind them. And I want to go with a team that is struggling to stay afloat. And I do find it interesting to see where they land. They didn't move John Collins this offseason. I'm talking, of course, about the Atlanta Hawks. And they are sitting right now at the 8th seed on Bovada. They are minus 500 to be a play-in tournament team. They are, of the teams in the Eastern Conference, the most likely team, according to those odds, to be in the play-in tournament, which I think is interesting. Their over-under, again, on Bovada is minus 125 if you pick the over for 41 and a half games. So basically, if you bet for them to win 42 games or more. And I just don't know what to make. This team had so much buzz going into the season, and there's been this waiting for a reemergence of the Hawks as a top team in the East. I fell for it last year. I was like, hey, let's let the good times roll. They got to the Eastern Conference 2 years ago, Eastern Conference Finals. I thought they were going to just build on that, and then things just kind of got weird. They added DeJounte Murray. He's a huge factor, no doubt, but they have decisions to make with him this offseason. They need to move John Collins potentially, or see if that's going to end up flipping around and if he can stay put. But he's been in so many trade rumors. So I think this is a team that, yes, likely it seems they're going to be in the play-in tournament. Really, the only teams I could see them leapfrogging if they had some good success. So the Hawks are at 29 and 30 right now. If the Knicks went cold and if the Nets go really cold, but even then, the Nets are 34 and 24, the Knicks are 33 and 27, and again, the Hawks are 29 and 30. Doesn't seem like there's much chance of them passing them. The Heat are in seventh at 32 and 27, and I just don't see them having a weak finish to the season. That's not the Heat's MO. So I'm curious to see what the Hawks do, and I'm also curious to see how this impacts the star that is Trae Young. Does he kind of go down a level? Is he not considered like a 1A level star? Is he considered like maybe he needs to be the second guy on your title team?
Could be. And, Pat Benson, who we had on earlier this season, called it. And they were kind of in a decent spot at the time. I mean, it wasn't like they're at the bottom of the conference, but he was straight up saying it's like an implosion. Like it's over. Like it's just, and he's correct. I mean, you saw, at the recording of this podcast, Nate McMillan, he's fired. So they have a new coach in Joe Prunty, I believe how you pronounce his name. So I think you pretty much concede the season when you fire your coach.
Yeah, and Trae Young seems like he won that battle. They had that scuffle right around that time we talked with Pat.
No, it's true.
Yeah, good point. So there's two for us. You got the Knicks and the Suns. I had the Kings and the Hawks. Go ahead, give us your last most interesting team.
Yeah. Honorable mention goes to the Grizzlies, as you'll hear with Drew Hill. Like you said, man, not to spoil it, but as a team that, even though they're near the top of the conference, don't get as nearly as much respect. Check out for them. But to me, it's the Pelicans. I
Mm,
think it's when
love it.
what is going to happen with Zion? Is he going to be healthy? Is he not? What about Brandon Ingram? What about the overall health of this team? I mean, this team is really talented. I think they got the pieces to make a move here, but yet they're battling a lot of injuries. And with Zion, it's just like, and I get it. I understand what Jake Madison said, who he covers the Pelicans, host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast, Locked On NBA. Shout out to him. And I get it. His injuries were fluky. At the same time, it's just like something's got to give in terms of this guy's career. Like, we're pretty, at this point, heading to the prime years. And he keeps being injury prone, like that's going to kind of stick with him. So that's going to be a team I'm really eyeing. And if he's healthy, how's he going to do in the playoffs? That's really intense situations. We've seen Brandon Ingram deliver in those situations. How is Zion going to match up? How about CJ McCollum? So that's a team I'm really going to be watching out for. Also with Jose Alvarado too, if they match up with the Suns, they got beef. So I'm down for the beef. I'm down for playoff beef and bad blood with a lot of these Western Conference teams. I'm looking forward to seeing it. And whenever there's bad blood between teams, I think that's when you might see an upset just because emotions are running high. Guys make mistakes because they're angry. So I think looking at the Pelicans, that's a team to look out for.
With the Pelicans, there's always that built-in narrative too that Zion is one of these great prospects coming into the
Sure.
league, and that's always something you want to keep an eye on. That's fun to keep an eye on in the NBA. Like, this is another potential legacy guy if he can keep healthy. Great pick with the Pelicans. I thought seriously about picking them too. I'm going to go with a little bit more of a favorite team compared to the first two that I went with here. And I want to move back to the Eastern Conference, and I want to talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers. My question with them: can they move into the top three in a very loaded East? I want to see. I want to know, is this core going to stick around? And we didn't mention this, but how does Kevin Love being bought out and moved to the Miami Heat?
Good point.
That's an
Yeah.
interesting move. How does
Yeah.
that affect them? I mean, I think great get for the Heat if he can be healthy. He
Yeah.
can certainly help that 3-point shooting. But can the Cavaliers move into that top 3 seed? If they think that, why did they get rid of Kevin Love other than just being nice and wanting to give him some more playing time potentially in Miami? I don't get it. If you want to compete, why would you get rid of a piece like that who has experience, who won the finals for the Cavaliers on that LeBron squad back in 2016? So the Cavaliers, Bovada has them minus 200 if you bet the over on the 3.5 seed. And the 76ers, look, I have to give them credit. Doc has been better than in seasons past. They've been a little bit more stable, but I just don't have, and this could be my Houston Rockets bias, I just don't have a whole lot of faith in Harden. I don't have a whole lot of faith in that 76ers team. I love me some Joel Embiid, don't get me wrong, but I do think there's potential that the Cavs could pass the 76ers when it's all said and done. So what are the Cavs going to do? I want to see. It's been a great story with Mitchell and him being revitalized, and also just making that team go from a team with young potential to a team now with title aspirations, honestly, contender aspirations at least. So those are our interesting teams. Let us know, you guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, or just give us a shout on social media. Who are you guys most interested in watching? Do you agree with some of our picks? Do you think some of our picks are boring and off base? Let us know. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you made it this far, thank you for sticking around with us. Thank you, as always, for your support. I am Matt Thomas. He's Justin Goodrum. Thanks again. We'll see you guys very soon. Peace.
See ya.